Howdy, folks! Happy Monday. I see Jan is wearing a. Now, is that that's not a throwback? That's just an alternate.
No, this is the July 4th hat from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, right. You know what? I really liked, even though I don't
much better than the one this year.
I was gonna say I liked the Yankees one, even though I don't like the NY with the red, white, and blue in it. I liked the NYC USA on the side of it. The cap looked really good, but then I went online and looked it up, and it was $41. You know what? I'll pass.
Yeah, no, I mean I got this a couple of years ago when they did actually like this. This is one of the ones I like the most. They did, and the hat's a little bit of a different material, and a different color also.
So the Mets blue was too much like a Yankee blue in that hat. So
no, God forbid, Russ. But start us off with the.
It's okay. We can revel in the 2 out of 3.
True. So let's talk about when ESPN showed the Sunday night game and did almost everything they could to push in StatCast. So here's the fun part about StatCast, or not the fun part. When you're forcing conversations, you're basically talking about things that we already know as baseball fans. Like, hey, that first and third is important with no out because like 85% of the time you get the run in. And it's like, really? We learned that when we were like 8 years old, except we didn't have a percentage. We just knew it was really good if you did it. Also, I noticed that when they wanted to have an agenda to try and prop up guys, they were saying how good Lindor's OPS is and how good Giancarlo Stanton's is. Well, the problem is all Lindor does is walk and get base hits. And Stanton, all he does is hit homers or nothing. But yes, for OPS, you could make an argument that it's decent. And they were just breaking down the OPS. And it's like, but they're not having good seasons. And so at the end of the day, I don't know who really fully enjoyed that broadcast, but it wasn't me. And I bet you it wasn't like 70% of baseball fans.
Yeah, it didn't.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Go ahead, Dick. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's why the adage is lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? You can spin the numbers any way you want, right? It's good information. You have to be able to read through the information. Look, I think the better information is ground covered in the outfield in times, right? You get a better sense as to how good an outfielder is. Yes. I think OBA, when you look at like a guy like Nemo, right, who's got a great on-base percentage, that's, to my opinion, more valuable than some of the other stuff, right? Anybody who has watched the Yankees and the Mets, Lindor has not had a good season. He's had a couple of good games by comparison. And Stan, the problem is he can't get in the field, so he's stuck at DH, which is clogging up a major spot for the Yankees right now. And that's a big issue for them also, and they have too many guys. And look, Boone also mismanaged yesterday, right? You go with your closer, right? The old thing, you always got to go with your closer. Could have stuck with Chad Green in Game 1 yesterday. Very simply could have stuck with him.
Well, I wanted to ask Kevin this because we witnessed let's just say not a brain cramp, not a brain explosion, but a brain Nagasaki yesterday with Aroldis Chapman. Up 5-4 in the 9th inning. He comes in. His ERA over the last, I think, month and a half has been like 8. It's been ridiculous. They want to get him back on track. He's up by a run. He's throwing 100 miles an hour. High fastball that Pete Alonso can't touch, and then all of a sudden he grooves a slider, and it ends up in the left field seats, and he turns and puts his hands on his head, and you know that he was cooked at that point. The confidence in a guy who was lights out has been completely sapped, and this goes across all sports, Kev. We've seen players who have levels of confidence, and then all of a sudden they lose it. And it's tough for them to get it back again. And, so, I mean, when you see that, what do you think about that? Because it puzzles me how they can just lose it like that.
Yeah, me too. And I've always been fascinated by, even in professional sports where guys, live and die by the intimidation of their confidence level, especially a guy throwing 100 miles an hour. Like, you would think a guy who could throw 100 would always be confident that he could blow it by you. And, it just happens. And it happens in all sports. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks who are great quarterbacks who suddenly can't connect to the receivers. And then suddenly, 5 attempts that miss suddenly turn into 10. And next thing you know, he's got a 10 for 38 passing day. And it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing how much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they've lost their comfortability factor now, right? Spider tack, right? It's gotten so much in their head that they've lost the spin rate with Rapsodo and everything else. And now that's been so played up that any deviation from it automatically starts playing with their head, as opposed to recognizing they likely have the talent to get past it. And that's probably more so than, taking it away has had a material impact, no question, but more so the psychological impact of losing their fallback option to increase it has probably had a bigger effect. And the batters now think, okay, these guys have lost a little bit. I can go into the batter's box with a little more swagger now and not worry about what happened before.
Well, the thing is, Jan, is that I saw a statistical analysis of the fact that Chapman's problems predate when even the mention of them taking spider tack away. So this is I think this is like the yips. I think this is like
I'll tell you the first time I saw it unfold like on TV, and then it became a thing for a while, and I think for the rest of his career, and that was Steve Blass. Steve Blass was a 20-game winner for the Pirates, all-star pitcher. Then all of a sudden he just couldn't find the plate. And he couldn't find the plate to the point where he wasn't going to be able to throw any strikes.
Yeah. How about Rick?
That's crazy.
How about Rick Ankiel, who pitched in a World Series and then couldn't pitch anymore, and he had to play the outfield?
I was at the game against the Mets in the championship series in Game 6 when he came in, and I said, they were blowing them out already. I'm going, dear God, please let him just throw a strike. Because if he can't find the plate now, he'll never recover as a pitcher. And that, honestly, I think was like the last time he pitched because he couldn't throw it. Look, we as Met fans saw Mackey Sasser, who had to triple pump to throw the ball back to the pitcher because he had the yips and had a psychological block of being able to happen. It's very quick how it happens, how an elite athlete, that little edge that they have, once they've lost it, it's almost impossible to get back. But you hear stories of guys working with psychological coaches, which is why they become much more prominent now, because they realize how important the mental aspect of the game is.
All right, let's get the show started. I'm sorry, go ahead, Cap. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to throw one thing out there. I find that, statistics have changed in all sports, and I follow all sports. Yeah. But baseball has had a few that have really got my attention. And, I think what Jan said earlier about, the statistics are what you make of them. But there are a couple that I have found have sort of changed my perspective. And one of them is the chase rate, which is the bad pitches that you chase and swing at, which I think has really sort of enlightened me to the flaws of some players that I used to think, were maybe better than they really were. And the other thing is the swing and miss rate for pitchers, which I think to me really kind of shows a level of dominance that sometimes was a little hard to quantify. Like you could watch it and know that a guy was dominating, but when he has 20 guys who swing and miss, and you also, I lose confidence if I know if I'm watching my team and the guy doesn't have a high swing and miss rate, and he's pitching, and he's got a guy on third, one out, and he needs that strikeout. I don't have confidence in that guy if he doesn't have a good swing and miss rate. So anyway, some statistics stick and some don't.
The thing, and just the last point on this, the thing that was puzzling, because we, 3 of the 4 of us, I'm not sure if you saw any of the doubleheader yesterday, Kev, between the Mets and the Yankees. There was a lot of what people deemed to be questionable decisions by Aaron Boone in terms of pulling relievers or bringing relievers in. In the first game, he takes out Chad Green after 2 pitches. Garrett Cole had pitched 80 pitches, but he was clearly gassed, so that was at least understandable. But then they bring in Chapman in the 9th, and that was understandable in terms of wanting to get him back on track. But then he brings in a guy, Lucas Litke, in the 9th inning, who is a gas can. The guy can't get anybody out. He's sort of the fallback, and the Mets got 6 runs off the guy. In the second game, their starter was a spot starter, Nestor Cortez. He pitched great. He gives up 1 double in the 4th inning. They pull him. The next guy gives up a 2-run home run, and then they bring in Chad Green, and he pitches 3 innings and shuts the Mets out. And I was talking to Russ earlier, and he's like, "Oh, these are questionable decisions." The problem is that Boone is not making the decisions. It's the analytics people. It's them who are telling them, "You got to pull out these guys at a certain point. The matchups are better here and there." And then how can you blame firing Aaron Boone when he's not making the decisions? That's
well, Boone got hired. Clappish was on this morning, Mike, just got on FAN, which I listened to, and he said Boone got hired because of the analytics background and the ability to utilize that information. And this is what's happened in, I don't know if it's happened in hockey yet, but it's happened in a lot of sports where analytics, which play a huge part in it, have dominated everything, and they're not allowed to make decisions on their own. Guys making
he's still
decisions.
The manager. He could go against it, and if they want to fire him, they could fire him.
Well, again, but Boone as a new manager wasn't going to do that. Now, 4 years in, honestly,
he should do
I'm Boone and I'm managing for my job at this point in time. I'm saying, you know what? I'm making my own decision. If I'm going down, making my own decision.
Watch me rip up the
analytics. You're going to get rid of me anyway.
Yeah. All right, let's get the show started here. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, July 5th, 2021.
I'm Jan Levine, and my boys won 2 out of 3 from Mike's team.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Kevin Allen, Hockey Buzz.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, we have to start with a rather sad situation. It was learned this morning that Columbus Blue Jackets goaltender Matisse Kivlenieks passed away on July 4th. Aaron Portzline just posted this 5 minutes ago, so I want to read this out. The investigator in Oakland County, Michigan, said after an autopsy, it was confirmed that Kivlenieks' death was accidental. According to the report, a fireworks mortar blast hit him in the chest. It was not a head injury as first suspected. So this was a death by fireworks. And, we hear these stories every day, the day after July 4th, about somebody blowing off their hand or being blinded.
JPP in the NFL.
Jean-Pierre Paul years ago.
Right. I mean, this is the ultimate in that. I mean, 24-year-old kid. I don't know where Novi, Michigan is. Kev, is that near Detroit, or do you know where that is?
Yes, it's Novi, Michigan.
Novi. Thank you.
That's probably 30 minutes from Detroit. Northwest. So it's I don't know why he would be in Michigan, but it's a tragic loss. I mean, he's so young, and and when I read this morning that it could be fireworks, like I'm actually at my house on the lake, and out here we have fireworks every night for the 4 days leading up to. And last night we had a big show that at 10 o'clock that probably went for 25 minutes, and we're not shooting off sparklers anymore like we did when we were kids. Right. Like Russ said, these are big old fireworks that nobody has any experience with unless they did it the year before. Well, so it's always dangerous, and we get all kinds of messages. But it doesn't stop people; they just keep doing it.
No,
there was some stuff on Twitter last night. Again, I don't know the accuracy, right? Some of it was that I think Manny Legacy's daughter was getting married and may have been in town for that. Was a rumor. There'd been something that it was a fireworks accident that got reported originally, then got changed. That not that he got hit by it, but obviously fell out of it, irrespective of the reason. I mean, it's the tragic loss of a 24-year-old kid for a reason that was wholeheartedly preventable.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll tell you, we all shot him off as kids, and Mike and I were talking about it because, with my dad was very careful, and we only used a couple types, right? And there were always people that went over the top and did more than that. We didn't. But then when you're not with your dad and you're old enough to have fireworks, you tend to be a little risky, especially if there's alcohol involved. So then my thing is I am shocked at how easy it has been, even in New Jersey the last couple of years, to obtain fireworks where before you couldn't. And I just don't think it's good. I'm not against fireworks shows. If you want to have them, great, but let the pros do it. And again, it does bother a lot of pets and people with PTSD. And the problem is when people just shoot them off for the next 3 weeks, that's wrong too. So do it that day. Do it with the pros. I don't think people should be doing it in their backyard.
It was crazy. I mean, we must have last night. I mean, my dog was flipping out. We must have had for like 2 hours straight, about 12:30 last night, just fireworks going off constantly and continuously for good, not 90 minutes to 2 hours straight.
I mean, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. When I was a kid, I mean, of course, being a kid and not having the judgment that you have as an adult, I did things that I'm surprised, and my friends in the neighborhood did things that I'm surprised that we didn't get maimed in some way. Putting M80s in glass bottles and things of that nature, just stupid stuff that now you'd never do. But yesterday, I mean, I enjoy fireworks as much as anybody, and I drove around the neighborhood. I have a video on Facebook where somebody must have taken a Mack truck to Pennsylvania and loaded up on ordnance, and like half the block paid him to go and do it because the guy had a 45-minute barrage of fireworks, and it was not like it was. I mean, it was not a professional who was doing it. But it was almost like it was because he had the mortars laid out on the ground, and somebody had these little platforms that were shooting off things, and a couple of them malfunctioned, and people were getting sprayed with the sparkles and things of that nature. But in this instance, the report is that Kivlenix and a number of people were in a hot tub, and there was a malfunction, and he got hit with the malfunction. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's really like,
there are some that are very unpredictable, right? Like, it bothers me and gets me nervous when people start messing with Roman candles. They're like very unpredictable, and they have a lot of colors. I get it, but a lot of us don't really know how to use them. And it's funny because Cameron wrote in the chat room, 2 words, lawn darts. You can't buy lawn darts anymore because of all the accidents that happen with lawn darts. So it's true. I mean, some things,
yeah, I mean,
very sad.
I mean, Russ, in our neighborhood when we were kids, you remember the pop cans had serrated edges on both sides, unlike the way that they are now. You could get pop cans or like those old tennis ball cans, long cans, cut off the tops with a can opener, tape it all together, and make what we used to call Polish cannon, which was you cut the hole in the bottom, you put the tennis ball in, and you shoot it out, and it's basically like a mortar. And the stupid kids that we were putting lighter fluid on them, and you're putting
And the problem is you don't know where that's landing.
Right, and it could explode, and then you're going to be blinded for life. So but this is a 24-year-old guy, and he wasn't the one lighting up the fireworks. He was just an innocent bystander, and it's just really sad. He was 24. He had a full life in front of him, and it's just a tragedy. And you can see by the number of people like Cam Atkinson and Jarmo Kekalainen and a number of other people in the Blue Jackets organization that this is just a tragedy, and he was a good guy. So we offer our condolences to Matisse's family. Tough transition, but moving on to the Stanley Cup final. Kev, Game 3 was looked upon as the chance for the Montreal Canadiens to bounce back from a good effort in Game 2, but an effort that they lost 3-1. Tampa Bay had something different to say about that because right off the bat, they opened up with 2 goals. When Montreal scores a reply near the end of the first period, they score 2 more goals. And really, other than a few moments in this game, the Tampa Bay Lightning were in absolute complete control in the 6-3 victory.
Yeah, I thought this game was a real reminder of the talent disparity between the two teams. Excuse me. I still believe that when the series started, the Montreal Canadiens were playing as well as the Tampa Bay Lightning. But when I say that, what I mean is they were playing up to their potential, and the Lightning were playing up to their potential. But there is no comparison, and I think this series has kind of worked out the way most of us thought it was going to, which is, in the end, the skill that Tampa Bay has up front, would win out. And I don't think there's any question that that's what's happening. Although, I think Carey Price, that this hasn't been his fault whatsoever.
No.
But he probably hasn't been as brilliant as he was coming into the series. So they needed him to be better than Vasilevsky, and he has not been better than Vasilevsky.
Russ, you made that.
That was the way they would. Yes.
Russ, you made that point. You thought that Price looked gassed.
Yeah, I felt like he looked gassed, and it's just because the amount of grade A saves he's had to make all this time, leading up to this series, with these guys outplaying his team, the amount of times he's had to go post to post. I saw when he would glide and do that, the glide wasn't taking him as far, little things. But again, Corinne Haynes is doing a great job covering the Cup. And so I just, got an article from her, and it's up on Sportsology, and they talked about the changes. And I have to tell you, I really don't have any confidence in Dominic Ducharme. He did finally put Romanov in, but he's taking Kotkaniemi out, which makes no sense because I actually think he's been playing okay, and his speed, and he does have a little physicality. They're putting Kulak in, so that's fine. They're finally going to sort of give minutes, and they're taking Gustafsson out, I suppose. I didn't see that.
Yeah, Gustafsson and Merrill and Kotkaniemi out.
Yeah, that's that part's positive, but Kotkaniemi, I don't understand taking him out. Putting Evans in, fine. I think Ducharme is doing this willy-nilly, and the day before he did all this, he just acted very stubborn about it, like, hey, it's my system. And it's like, if you don't win a game, I get that you have to have a French coach in Canada, in Montreal. I get that. So there's not a lot of options. But I have to tell you, I wouldn't be hiring him if it were up to me. But I get the reasons why they may still hire him.
Well, Jan, the thing I don't like, they're down 3-0. They have to shake things up. They're going to make these changes. But unless Ducharme says, okay, I'm going to play Romanov and I'm going to play Kulak 15 minutes to take some of the minutes off of that top four, then what the hell is the difference? Because if you're playing Petrie, Edmondson, Sherratt, and Weber 25 minutes, and you've been playing them that since the Toronto series, they're dead on arrival right now.
Well, the better question is, as Russ kind of pointed out, right? Prices look gassed. Do you go to Jake Allen? Are you willing to? Look, if he's going to play as poorly as he's played the first 3 games, right? You need a major shakeup, right? The bleeding around the edges you've done. Kotkaniemi is a little bit of a shakeup. The other moves, look. Here's the questions. Do you have anything to lose? If Price is going to play this badly, and granted, as you said, he may be gassed based upon him helping to carry the team the first 3 rounds, is it worthwhile taking the shot on Allen, who, look, you get 1 game, right? Then you go back to Price for game 5, and maybe you've captured something or found it. I understand the rationale not to go with him because he's going to get widely criticized if it doesn't pan out. But the moves he's made now, are they material? I don't know if they're material enough to actually beat Tampa.
Well, Kevin, first of all, they had a 2-day break, which I still don't understand. So Price should be a little more rested than he was for game 3. The thing I have to say, I didn't blame Price for the losses in game 1 or even game 2. I thought Price played well when they gave up 5 goals. It was just a commentary on how the disparity of talent between the Lightning and the Canadiens is. Game 2. The Edmondson giveaway, the goal with the fantastic play on the Coleman goal. I can't really blame Price. Game 3, definitely. So Kevin, I think that I think they're sticking with Price, obviously, but I understand what Jan is saying is that right now it's desperation time for the Canadiens, and it sounds like they're making as many wholesale changes as they can.
Yeah, I would disagree with Jan in terms of pulling Price. He's not just your guy. He is kind of one for the ages, and it would be like in baseball if Verlander had not pitched well for the postseason, and then when you came down to a crucial game and it was his turn, you'd kind of pull him. I think this would be the same. Here, even though it's more acceptable in hockey to pull a goalie just to kind of change up things. I just don't think you do it with a guy like Price. I think his pedigree and his aura, just are too strong and too big to do that. I think it would almost have a negative impact on the team.
Okay,
if you pull out a guy.
Just to play devil's advocate, what if they gave up 2 early goals again? Can you do it then?
I would pull him, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would, because then that's different. But if he gives up 2 early goals, I would pull him again. But I just think it's kind of a bad message going on, and plus it's 3-0. It's not like it's 3-2. Mm-hmm. You might as well just say, look, he got us here. He's our guy. Let's just ride him out. And even though I think he hasn't played as well as he did in the 2 previous series, and none of this has been his fault. So I mean, I just don't see, how pulling him would really help the team.
Yeah, and from the sublime to the ridiculous, I know that politicians say stupid things, but this is in the category of extremely stupid.
Yeah.
Jane Castor, the mayor of Tampa, comes out, and here's the direct quote. What we would like is for the Lightning to take it a bit easy, to give the Canadians just the smallest break, allow them to win one at home, then bring it back to the Amalie Arena for the final and winning of the Stanley Cup. Jane, you're obviously not a sports fan, and you're an idiot. Because first of all, we are. I think, as some people are aware, there is a tropical depression coming to your town, folks, in Florida. There's a possibility that if there is a Game 5, it could be postponed due to weather conditions. So I don't think the NHL, if the NHL had anything to say about it, which they don't, I think they would probably want the series ended tonight. But if you're a fan of the Tampa Bay Lightning, the last thing you want is to give the Canadians a glimmer of hope. We have seen a team up 3-0 lose in 7 games. So, Jane, shut up.
Can we ask John Cooper his view? Because I think the response would be an interesting response from Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing to me there wasn't somebody within her office that was a big enough sports fan to say, no, you don't want to say that. Athletes don't throw games. They don't think like that. They just try to win.
Plus, it might be hard for fans. It might be hard for fans to get to Game 5 too, and that's their constituency. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I saw that this morning. I thought, wow, that's amazing.
Yes, obviously she is not a Lightning season ticket holder.
No, but just think about that, Mike. Though the Stanley Cup is in July. Mm-hmm. You don't generally worry about storms when the Stanley Cup's playing. Even in June, you generally don't worry about them. I can't think of a Stanley Cup game that's been postponed because of weather, but it could happen.
Yeah, no, I don't. Can't.
Is anybody else?
Go ahead, Cap.
So am I the only one with a 3-second delay? I can't figure this out. Delays.
Why don't you log off and log back out? Because maybe that will work.
Yeah, I tried it before, but it didn't work. But I'll try it again because I'm like on a 3. I've never had this happen before.
Just restart your
computer. So
okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I've never heard of a cup that fans couldn't get to it, so they canceled it.
Yeah,
postponed it.
Yeah, the cup is, go ahead.
The only good news is, I guess, if they do win the cup, you don't have to worry about Nikita Kucherov throwing the Stanley Cup from one boat to another like Tom Brady still did with the championship trophy.
Yeah, for one thing, I don't know if Kucherov would be as drunk as Tom Brady, and for another thing,
he's Russian. Come on.
I would like to think, even though, look, the Stanley Cup has ended up at the bottom of the pool with the Rangers, it ended up at a strip club. It ends up in certain places, but I will say this: they do have a little more respect for the Stanley Cup than the NFL players did for the Lombardi Trophy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I can't throw it as easily either. That's my point. I mean,
I still think the funniest story is like Russ was talking about at the bottom of the pool. That was during I think it was Pittsburgh when they won in consecutive years. And
yes, it was at Mario Lemieux's pool at the bottom.
Yeah, and the issue with it is it went down cup first, and the suction from the oxygen inside the cup basically glued it to the bottom of the pool, and they had to I think they had to bend it, or they had to pounding at it to get it to come loose. So they damaged the cup because they were a little happy. So okay, we will follow.
I mean, nobody will be happier than Ovechkin. I still have a video of that.
Oh my God! Oh, I mean.
Well, after how many years did they say that he can't win the big one, right? That he can't carry a team to win the cup. Right. You can understand the reaction. I mean, it's a normal human reaction after dealing with so many years of being criticized.
He carried that on for a week. He carried that on at the
baseball why not? Game. You know what? You win the cup, you're entitled to celebrate it.
Yeah,
he went on a bender of all benders.
He really did.
What was he? Was he at like Nationals Park and he was
he was at Nationals Park and that was a whole thing. Yeah, he wore shorts, which I've never seen him in shorts. That was great. Oh yeah, it was funny.
I don't want to see it again. Thanks, Alex. Okay, we'll get Kevin back here in a second. But I wanted, hopefully, I wanted to touch on this. I saw Darren Drager make some comments on, they were posted online from Buffalo Radio saying that he thinks that the number of trades being made after the Stanley Cup final between now and the expansion draft will be very few. And that sort of goes counter to everything that I suspect and I have heard, because I think teams have situations, Russ, that, they don't want to lose players for nothing, and they would rather make trades to get something for them. And I think there will be moves between.
Yeah, I think there'll be 4 to 5. Now, again, it may not involve a player. Like the Dougie Hamilton will be for his rights. It'll be for those. So, but we're going to see some trades. We are, and I do think we'll see like 4 or 5. That's what I think.
Okay, let's test out the connection here and see how long it takes for Kevin to respond. Go.
Hello.
Oh, it's only
A little better.
It's
Coming
only
from 3 to 2 seconds, I think.
Yeah, so it's less. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's it. It works, Kev. We'll take you even.
We'll have that pregnant pause after speaking, Kevin, just to make sure you've had enough opportunity to hear us.
Right, exactly. Now, what I was bringing up with Russ is that Darren Drager made some comments regarding the action, potential action of trades between now and the 21st of July when the expansion draft happens. The lists of protection have to be revealed by 5 p.m. on the 19th of July. That's the Saturday before the expansion draft. And Drager was saying he doesn't think there are going to be a lot of trades. But Kevin, I suspect that teams that have dilemmas when it comes to protection and players that they don't want to lose for nothing are going to make deals. So I think they're going to be 3 or 4. Russ says 4 or 5. I think there's going to be some trades. What do you think?
Absolutely, there's going to be trades because unlike last time, they're not going to lose players they don't want to lose. They're going to move them to other teams. And
right.
There are teams out there with a lot of cap space. The Buffalo Sabres, Detroit Red Wings, Arizona Coyotes are going to have some space when everything clears out. So they'll be able to take some players that can help them long term. So I think for sure there's going to be trades. Although a lot of the issues are kind of working out. Like Colorado was going to lose one of their premium defensemen, and they were going to lose Gerard or Taves, and now Eric Johnson is going to allow himself to waive his there's no movement clause so that he can be exposed to that. So some of them will be resolved with more creative measures, but I think there's going to be trades. I don't think there's any way around it.
Now, Russ, with Colorado, and we're not going to talk about expansion protection here, but just Colorado is an extremely interesting scenario because they have Gerard, they have Taves. Obviously, they're protecting Makar. That means they could lose Ryan Graves in expansion. And if I'm Ron Francis, that's a guy I would like to get. Although
I don't
Makar
think
might be exempt. Makar might be exempt.
Yeah, Makar is exempt, I believe.
Okay, so then they can protect Graves.
Well, no, he didn't. He played a couple of games his first year when he came in because he played the playoffs. He's lost his ELC that year. So it's 3 years now. It's technically 3 years.
Okay.
But I mean, there are situations. There are situations with teams where they're not going to want, and I was using this as an example, and I was checking cap friendly as we speak here. But there are examples where teams are going to have players exposed that they don't want to have exposed. We talked about Minnesota with Matt Dumba. I mean, do they protect 8 skaters and protect Dumba? Do they trade Dumba before? I think they're going to trade. I think teams like that are going to trade these players, like Kevin was saying before, to get.
Yeah, I think so too.
You think so, Russ?
Yeah, I do think so. I think they wouldn't want to lose Graves. So unless they cut a deal, I could see them, trading somebody else. So, again, maybe they'll trade Kadri so they don't have to protect them. Who knows? I don't know what his deal is. I don't know if he has a no move. I'm not sure what his contract status is.
No. Okay, so if Johnson is waiving his no move, they have to protect Gerard. They have to protect Taves. They have to protect Makar. So if they protect 8 skaters, they could protect Graves. And that would mean protecting Rand. Well, they don't have to protect Landeskog because he's a UFA.
Right. So actually, they may go the 8 skaters, and then look, if like Tyson Jost gets taken, he's a good player, but you know what? So be it. But I think Graves is more important to them. So
that's the out that some teams like Washington are going to take. Obviously, they're going to sign Ovechkin, but they're going to wait until after July 22nd. You're going to see such a slew of UFA signings. Yeah. It's going to be blinding. So, but I refute what Drager is saying. I think there are going to be trades. I don't know how many. I'm sure the Buffalo Sabres are going to be making some deals, Kevin, because we keep hearing a lot of talk about Eichel. A lot of talk about Reinhardt and Ristolainen. I don't know if all of them are going to go before the beginning of next season, but I think at least 2 of them will go.
Yeah, I think all 3 of them could go, to be honest. And I think a lot's going to depend. Like if Minnesota is going to win the Jack Eichel sweepstakes, like that deal could happen before the expansion, because Dumba would have to be a part of it. In order to make that work, I think Dumba has to go to Buffalo.
Well, here's something interesting. Just because you put up Minnesota as an example, the one thing Buffalo has trouble with is getting players to commit long term. They just signed Eriksson Ek to an 8-year deal. Wouldn't you think that would be extremely attractive to Buffalo to get Eriksson Ek as part of an Eichel deal because he's locked up at a reasonable amount for 8 years?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's why I think Ryan Ellis, could end up like in a place like Columbus. Like if they have to trade. Columbus is going to have to trade Seth Jones, but they could actually come out ahead if they could make a deal where they didn't give up much to get Ryan Ellis because he's a longer contract and Nashville would like to, get a little more cap space, and then trade Seth Jones for a lot, like getting Ryan Ellis and a bunch of assets for Seth Jones. That could be a win for them. And considering how bad it looked when it was first announced that Seth Jones was going to have to be traded, if you are creative enough, you might be able to turn this into a plus day.
Yeah. Jan just posted in our chat something that was in one of his blogs. Yeah, okay. St. Louis, Torrey Krug is locked up on long term. I think he has 5 more years because he signed a free agent deal. They have to protect him or Vince Dunn. Vince Dunn, they've been talking about trading him.
Yeah, they're not going to protect him.
Yeah, Vince Dunn is going to get traded. If I'm the New York Islanders, if I'm choosing between Mayfield and Leddy,
it's not even close.
It's not even close. You choose Mayfield, but the worry here is I think Mayfield is a UFA after next year. So if you're protecting him, you better sign him to an extension.
But they'll be able to sign him. He wants to be there. He's not a super high salary guy, and Leddy is not what he used to be. So that's an easy decision.
Krug has 6 more years, and the question is,
6 more years.
Would you protect Falk, or would you hope he gets taken? Because that contract, in my opinion, is kind of an out.
I would hope he gets taken, but he's not going to get taken.
Although, I mean, Ron Francis is his former general manager from Carolina. He knows how good he is, but
But that was then. He's still good.
Yeah,
but he's not like. Well, he's going to be on the Olympic team.
He and Krug each have 6 years at $6.5 million per for the next 6 years.
Yeah, no.
Here's the interesting one that's popped up.
Let me.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, what I find interesting is I'm hearing they're going to leave they being the Lightning, Ryan McDonough unprotected to make sure that Cernak is saved because they don't think Ron Francis will take McDonough. Well, what if he does? Like McDonough is still a pretty valuable defenseman, and I know he's got a lot of years left on his contract, but he's dependable and solid.
Well, this is where Julian Breezeball has to. If their plan is to get Seattle to take Tyler Johnson, then they're going to have to give Seattle a reason to take Tyler Johnson and not take McDonough, meaning a first-round pick or a really good prospect. This is where teams like Tampa are going to be in the position that teams like Minnesota and teams like Florida were in with Vegas. They're going to have to pay the price to keep the guys they want to keep.
How well did it work out for Florida?
Oh, I know, but they really have no option.
McDonough's had a resurgent playoff. There's absolutely no question. He's probably been their best defenseman overall. He's also got a lot of tires on the tread. He's had a lot of heavy work, especially in terms of the minutes he's played. Right. 6 more years at $6.875 million. How many more years do you think he has playing at a level of which that salary is worthwhile?
I think 3 or 4. I think 3 or 4.
Two.
No, I think 3 or 4. I think because we were 2 years ago, people were saying he's putting in too many hard minutes. I think he'll surprise you, but I'll get Kevin. Kevin's right in the sense that I remember when the Mets didn't protect Tom Seaver for this, compensation pool that they have in baseball, and the White Sox took him. And you know what? Now that's a different situation because he was older, but then he had 2 15-win seasons for the White Sox. The Mets outfought this, and I don't think it's impossible that Francis takes McDonough, but again, the Lightning are going to have to take a chance somewhere, and they're probably not going to do too much to try and pay off Francis to not take one of their guys.
They could simply take McDonough to flip him to some team that really needs a defenseman,
sure.
Right now. I mean, what kind of value, Kevin, do you think that they would get for Ryan McDonough coming off the performance that he's had in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Well, I think it would be still hard to trade him. That's 6 years, as Jan points out. That's tough sledding.
Yeah,
I mean, that really is. Now, not that he's not probably worth it, but I completely agree with Russ that you might get 3 or 4 more years out of him, but those last 2, could torture that.
Would you rather have Eric Cernak at 3 years?
I think you've got to
$2.95 million?
What's that, Jan? I
said, would you rather have Eric Cernak at 3 years at $2.95 million, or Ryan McDonough at 6 years at $6.875 million?
It depends who they bring them back.
No, it depends on where your team is at. If you're the Ottawa Senators, I would rather have Cernak because 3 years from now or 2 years from now, you might be a Stanley Cup contender. If you're a team that wants to win it right now and you think you're one really great defenseman away from winning a cup, then I want McDonough.
But it does help them get out of the salary situation too. So it all depends.
Go ahead, Kev.
Well, the issue you have too here with Tampa is this. They'll be going. I hate to get the cart before the horse, but they're probably going to be going for a three-peat, which no one has done. They're playing with house money. So, like, if I'm Lightning, this is what I would do. I would go to Seattle and say, okay, you got to take Tyler Johnson, and we will give you, Foote, and we will give you a first-round pick. There, they keep Cernak and McDonough, and they'll deal with McDonough's last 2 years when he's not playing. But they've already won twice, and they got a chance to win a third time. So they don't want to. They want to keep that ability to compete for as long as they can. So I would overpay. There aren't many teams. So I think I would for a chance to three-peat.
Yeah, I mean, they you're not going to get that opportunity anytime soon. You've got everybody in their prime, but I mean the one, and his name has been mentioned a couple times, that defenseman that might be a better fit for teams looking to add that one defenseman who could help him is Giordano, because there's talk about Calgary with Tanev, Anderson, and Hannafin protecting those three and exposing Giordano, and he only has 1 year left on his contract before he's a UFA.
1 year is like $8 million, isn't it?
Yeah,
6 point something.
Okay, I mean that's a lot
from the long-term deal he signed a couple of years ago. Yeah. $6.75 million.
Yes,
that's a lot of money for an older defense.
I mean, you guys are a little bit too young, but maybe Russ will remember a little bit. The old prison movies when the guy said, "Oh, I could do 5 years standing on my head." So teams can take a player at $8 million for 1 year. Right. They can all do that, standing on their heads. Like that's not all that hard. Giordano is an attractive player, even at $8 million, because he is just 1 year.
And Seattle can retain salary. If they claim him in the expansion draft, they can flip him someplace and retain up to 50%. So that's the way you get around that. If you're a team that has limited cap space, then and you want a guy who, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but he's just a really, really good defenseman. He still is. I think he's 37 years old, but he's still very effective.
The only thing is, again, I don't think Francis is a retain the salary kind of guy. He never was before. I know he's in a different position now, but I don't get the impression that he's necessarily going to jump at things like that.
Russ, if it's a question of being able to get a ridiculous return and you have to retain 50% for 1 year,
You're guessing you can get a ridiculous return. It's not set in stone.
no, it's not set in stone. I'm just saying.
But 1 year at $4 million is rather attractive for a contender, right? So if you look at Tampa, Tampa's losing Goodrow.
But he also could break his leg, first day of camp. Like I'm just saying, there's risk involved.
There's risk involved in everything, right? You're managing risk. You're also managing downside, but you're also working on upside potential, which is what they're trying to do.
And the risk is mitigated because it's only 1 year as opposed to 6 with McDonough.
I mean, the thing is, right, with McDonough, right? So if you look at them, they're losing Coleman, Goodrow, and Savard, which is about $3.7 million in salary total. They're literally up against the cap right now.
They're over the cap.
Huh?
They're over
right.
the cap.
They're over the cap now. So they're going to have to, even with losing those 3 guys and they have to replace them, they have to find a way to clear some other salary.
Hedman will be LTIR. You'll see.
Okay. All right.
And everybody who rails about this, honestly,
it doesn't matter. Who cares?
You had an opportunity with the CBA to change the rules,
Correct.
and you didn't. So you know what? They're taking advantage of the same rules that everybody else.
And they're going to do it again.
I think the people that are criticizing Julian Breezeball and the Tampa Bay Lightning are a bunch of morons. It's in the rules. You can do this. It's not circumvention. I'm sorry, especially with the flat cap, Kev, you have to allow these teams to exercise every possible option. If you don't, I mean, I don't know how some of these general managers can operate these teams.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame Breezewell for looking at the rules and say, aha, this is the way that I can do it. I mean, ultimately, the next time they negotiate, that could be cleaned up.
Right.
But it isn't right now, and everybody takes advantage of it. They just happen to take advantage of it to the tune of $18 million. And, when other circumstances would you have, a team being that much? They just happen to be there and figured out a way to do it. But, they can't do it next year. So now their pain comes the next season. And they're already over $5 million. They're not going to be able to bring, at least in theory, any of their free agents back, and that includes McElhinney, their backup goalie. They're going to try to find a cheaper backup.
It's good that you said in theory.
Yeah, I did say in theory.
Well,
because somebody could be hurt.
Give ownership credit, right? They have to be willing to shell out the money. Not every owner is going to be willing in a year where you had a pandemic and you don't have a lot of revenue come in to be willing to go that far above the cap with just paying money out the door in order to be able to retain a team. They're in a situation where they're a cup contender. It made sense for ownership and management to do so.
I'll tell you, when I was in Tampa, I asked about that to someone in the know and said, how many GMs do you think are actually okay with what Breezewell did? And the answer was like 2.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, okay, Kucherov was out for a legitimate reason, and I would think that because he had surgery and he was out for all this time, that there was some insurance situation where they got some of that money back. It wasn't like they sat him out because they couldn't fit him under the cap. He had surgery. He had hip
surgery.
Yeah.
And he had hip surgery. He had hip surgery, didn't he?
No, shoulder.
Shoulder.
Yeah, it was a legitimate injury.
No, it was hip.
No, not the
hip surgery.
Oh, was it hip surgery? Okay.
Hip surgery, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's finish off by playing a little game that I talked about in our group chat. I call it should he stay or should he go? We're talking about the unrestricted free agents that will hit the market on July 28th. There's a lot of talk about unrestricted free agents like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins staying with the teams that they have been with for a long time, or even players that were traded at the deadline staying with the teams that they were traded to. To accommodate this, they're probably going to have to take less. But you factor that in with the cap being at 81.5. There may not be as many teams out there willing to spend the big money, and the teams that have big money are the teams that players don't want to go to, like New Jersey and Buffalo and Ottawa. So it's a delicate balance for some of these players to take less to stay where they want, stay where they're comfortable, or risk going out in the market and maybe not getting as much as they think. So I'll go through a list of names here and just give me whether you think they should stay with the team that they're with or explore free agency. This one should be
no Clash in the background playing there, Mike. Come on, you're missing an opportunity to have the Clash playing in the background.
I don't want to face any copyright penalty here. ASCAP or BMI coming after my ass. Okay, Ryan Getzlaf, who has spent his entire, I think it's 14-year career in Anaheim. Only had 17 points last year, 36 years old, coming off an $8.25 million long-term deal. If he signs with Anaheim, it would probably be for significantly less. Kevin, you first. Do you think Getzlaf stays, or do you think he goes, or do you even think does he retire?
No, I think he'll stay and take a 1-year deal with bonus. And I think he's likes the idea of having spent one career with one team, and I think they'd like to have him around. He's a good guy, good dressing room guy. I don't think he'll ask for a lot of money. I think it'll be doable for Anaheim to make that work. And why not just bring him back?
Russ?
Yeah, I think he's going to stay. He'll definitely sign a 1-year deal, like Kev said, and I think he'll mentor Trevor Zegras. I think that's what the plan is.
Jan?
Same thing. Russ did exactly the same. 1 year, $2 million, maybe a little bonus. Good mentor for Zegras. Zegras gets a shot to be their number one center. You have Getzlaf as a number two and a guy who's going to mentor their future number one.
Agreed. Across the board, I think he's coming back. Taylor Hall, who was traded at the deadline from the Sabres to the Bruins, scored 8 goals with the Bruins in the remainder of the regular season. Had a pretty good first round, then sort of disappeared against the Islanders. He made $8 million last year on a 1-year deal with the Sabres. He's probably going to make significantly less if he sticks with the Bruins. The Bruins do have cap space. Jan, you first. Should Taylor Hall stay, or should he explore? Should he go?
I'm going to say he's going to sign a 3-year deal to stay in Boston. But the one caveat I will say is depending on what they do with Krejci. I think they need to. If they don't bring Krejci back, then I think it's more of a likelihood that Hall goes. But if they do bring him back, I think it's you'll probably have Hall because of a fairly solid number 2 line, and we saw last year. They need some kind of ballast to give some support to that top line.
Then Russ, why don't we put them in tandem here, because Hall and Krejci are sort of okay. So Hall, everything I just mentioned. Krejci had 44 points last year, had a really good year. He has stayed healthy the last few years. He is 35, and they desperately need to have that second line center behind Bergeron to sort of take some of the offensive. And he's a key member of their power play. But he made $7.25 million. I think he only comes back with the Bruins if he's paid significantly less, like say $5 million. What do you think on Hall and Krejci?
I think they both should go back. I mean, Krejci's been overpaid at times, so I think he kind of owes it to them. They've stuck with him with all the injuries, and Hall needs to rehab his whole persona, because if he goes out there, he's not getting a massive long-term deal, and he's not the same player right now. So he could rehab his, the way he plays and his reputation in Boston, and I think it would only be on the strength of like a 2-year deal. But that's his best bet, because if he goes out on the open market, he's not getting a 5-year deal again. Kevin?
I'm going Krejci's coming back, 2-year deal, maybe 8.5 for the 2. So 4.25, maybe 4.5 at most. And then I see Hall. I actually think he'll get a 3 or 4 year deal with them. I've heard $6 million, but it wouldn't shock me if it's 5.5 or a little bit less.
Yeah, $6 million is what he had on the previous deal with the Devils, I think, and then later traded up to Arizona. This one's interesting. Paul Stastny, who was a cap victim of the Vegas Golden Knights, traded to Winnipeg, had 13 goals last year, basically in a depth role with the Jets. Second time he's been with the Jets. He's 35 years old. He made 6.5 last year. Again, I think if he re-signs with the Jets, it's probably for significantly less. And with the instability, Russ, and the unknown situation with Pierre-Luc Dubois, because, I think he's a good player, but it just didn't seem that he was comfortable after getting traded to Winnipeg. I don't know. I would think that Winnipeg would want a stable veteran guy to step in as potentially a number 2 center and a stopgap and keep Stastny, but it all depends on the money. What do you think of should he stay or should he go, Stastny?
I think he should go because if he goes back to Vegas, he would have a better chance of winning the Cup than he would staying in Winnipeg. So I think if I were instructing him, I would instruct him to do that and just do it on a short-term deal. That's all. I know you got a house in Winnipeg, you just built it, but that's fine. Go do it there because that's your best chance to win the Cup. I think Winnipeg would have to do too many things to try and win the Cup.
Kevin, if Stastny goes back to Vegas, as Russ suggests, he'd probably have to take a 1-year deal for $1 million, whereas I think Winnipeg could pay him more if that was the motivation for him. He's made a lot of money in his career, but I don't know. I in my mind, I'll just say I think Stastny should stay and take a little less to stay in Winnipeg. But what do you think?
Well, I think he's going to go. I mean, I know he has said publicly that he enjoyed Winnipeg, but I think he's going to look around. I had that sense at the end of the season, just reading between the lines. I mean, I think he'll look at Vegas, but there are other teams looking for centers as well, and it'll be interesting to see. But I don't think he'll take too big of a haircut. Even in Vegas, there's lots of rumbling that they're going to do something reasonably significant to clear up some space. So I don't know if that's Fleury plus somebody else or what that is. But, I mean, he's not going to get a big contract there, but, he'll get more than $1 million.
Okay, let's see here.
Want to get to weigh in?
Yeah, well, please. I'm sorry, Jay. Please.
So, I mean, my view is I don't think Stastny comes back, but for a different reason. I think, first of all, I think Winnipeg wants to recoup some of the loss that they had with that trade, right? Not that Laine had a particularly good year, but Roslovic played relatively okay in Columbus, but they got Luc Dubois. They moved him a bit of times to wing because they had reacquired Stastny. I think they're going to try him, starting with training camp, as their number 2 center besides Scheifele, presuming Scheifele's back, and there's been rumblings that they could consider moving him. But I do think they're gonna let Stastny go. Maybe go to Vegas, maybe not. I just don't see Winnipeg bringing him in. I think they want to give a shot of PLD to be their number 2 center next year.
Yeah, the talk is that Dubois doesn't want to play center, which, if to me, I think that destroys the advantage that they had in that deal.
Yep.
I mean, the whole purpose of making that deal from them to trade an asset like Laine was to get a number 2 behind Scheifele, and if he doesn't want to play center, then that presents a big problem.
We should stick with Laine then. Should I stay or should I go? Go with Laine.
We're talking UFAs, not RFAs.
Okay.
Kev, you'll have some insight on this one because of him being in Detroit. I haven't heard anything on Mark Stahl, whether Mark Stahl would return to the Red Wings on a lower money deal. I mean, they have the money to sign him to an extension, so he probably wouldn't have to take so much of a haircut. But I don't think they want to spend $5.7 million on a 34-year-old defenseman. But what do you hear on Mark Stahl? Should he stay or should he go?
Well, they both agreed that they would consider him coming back. The Red Wings were very pleased with him. He was very good in the dressing room. He was good with the younger defensemen. Plus, everybody in Detroit, including the fan base, was impressed at how hard he competes. And he was playing for a losing team, but every game he was out there playing hard, and everybody noticed that. But saying all that, the Red Wings don't have a lot of roster spots because they're going to play a lot of younger players this year. Right. So it's going to be interesting to see. The money's going to be a little bit of an issue. They don't want to, overpay him either, even though they've got cap space. So I think he'll look around a little bit, but I think the Wings are an option for him. So if I'm guessing, and this is a real guess because I know the Red Wings like him, but I'm going to guess he's going to go. So Anyway.
Jan?
I think he's going to go. I think he's going to go try to have an opportunity to win a cup. Clearly he was a good mentor in Detroit, and actually I thought he had a pretty solid year overall. May not be a popular opinion, but with Vegas losing Alec Martinez, could you see Stahl going to Vegas as a third pair defenseman for a year at $2.5 million? Not ideal, doesn't have tremendous speed, but good veteran in the room, guy who's got a ton of playoff experience, and maybe it's a guy they slot into that third pair slot given they have some needs down there.
Russ?
I'm sorry, I missed it because I had to send a text.
Mark Stahl. Should he stay in Detroit? Should he test?
Yeah, he should stay in Detroit. I at this point, they like him. He could teach. There's not a big market for him, and I would just stay there if I were him.
Okay. Last one, Nick Foligno, traded at the deadline to the Leafs, got injured a couple games in, didn't really have much of an impact. The assumption was he was going to go back to Columbus, but now with Columbus in basically free rebuild mode, there is talk that he would like to stay with the Leafs. He made $5.5 million. He would probably have to take significantly less to stay in Toronto. And the impact of him staying, I think that the Zach Hyman, whether he stays or goes, will have an impact on Foligno. But Russ, you first. Do you think Foligno should stay or should go?
No, I think he should go. I think really he should go back to Columbus. I mean, look, he took a shot to win the cup. It didn't happen. I think because his family's there and he's comfortable there and he played his best hockey there, that's where he should go. I just think that's the best place for him.
Kevin?
Well, he's a high character guy, and I think he should want to go back to Columbus. And I think Columbus should want him back because if they are going to use younger players, he'll be good with them. However, he's going to have to take a serious pay cut. Like, I think he's almost got to be cut in half to make it really kind of worth their while. So, the length of contract, I think, will depend as well. And, he could have some options if he wanted to go out and try to win a cup. But that's easier said than done, picking the right team. So,
Jam?
I think given what he means to the Columbus community, he should stay.
Jam?
I mean, I think the same thing. I think, first of all, irrespective of where he goes, he's going to take a salary hit. I mean, a fairly significant one. I can see him getting a 2-year deal, finish his career in Columbus, retire there. As I said, be a mentor, especially given the unfortunate circumstances, him going back to the community, helping that team to cope when they get back into camp and everything else next year. So I do think he's a good fit there. He'd be good for a lot of teams. I mean, I do think if he doesn't go to Columbus, he's going to take a pay cut. But as Kevin said, picking the right team is a major challenge, especially if he goes out west, given the number of teams that could win a cup. But I do think he ends up back in Columbus.
Yeah, like I said, he's a high character guy. He's a former captain. He was somebody who, I mean, when he was traded to Toronto, was really into, coming back to the team that his father played for. I think, Toronto is interested. I think that they would want to bring him back. I think obviously term and money is going to be a big question. If Hyman goes elsewhere, I think that focuses the Leafs even more on Foligno. So I think he should stay in Toronto, and I think Toronto would give him a multi-year deal, probably 2 or 3 years, and probably the 2.75 to 3.25 range. And I think that's probably the best he's going to get out there. So I think there's a good chance he stays in Toronto, but I think it's all dependent on Hyman and whether Alex Kerfoot gets selected in the expansion draft or gets traded. So,
well, I think the problem also is I don't view Foligno as a direct replacement for Hyman, given what Hyman brings to that team. I don't think he's a scoring kind of a winger anymore, right?
No, but he is good along the boards. Mm-hmm. He's a few years older than Hyman, but I mean, they didn't get much of a look at the Foligno that we've seen over the last few years, but healthy, I think he can, provide some veteran experience and leadership that they're gonna lose with Hyman. They're not gonna completely replace Hyman. That's why I think it's a big key for the Leafs to re-sign him. But if they lose him, it's gonna be tough to replace his minutes and the way he plays. But all right, guys. Great show. We will be back tomorrow. We could be celebrating a new Stanley Cup champion. We will see. For Kevin Allen, for Russ Cohen, for Jan Levine, I am Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just